Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to stand before you today, and I want to first and foremost introduce myself. My name is Shante Burke-Hare. I am a proud member of the Concord Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and this event tonight is put on by some phenomenal groups, and I'm appreciative of all of them. And once I call the group's name, if the committee members that helped plan this could stand. Of course, the Concord Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I know I saw my co-chair, one of my tri-chairs here. She's in the back, but that's okay. That's okay. We also have the Brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I know, ain't nobody clap. We have the Black Political Caucus. We have Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And we have Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I want to thank this committee. We worked long, we worked hard under certain circumstances, but we got it done, and so I am so appreciative of each and every one of you all. So tonight, we are here to meet the candidates. We are here to talk to a few that were able to be with you all tonight running for office here in Cabarrus County. But you will not hear from me. You will hear from two excellent moderators on this evening, and I want to introduce them. I will first introduce Miss Keisha Felder Dickerson, who is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And Mr. Armani May, who is a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to them because, as you all know, it is important to be informed when you go vote. And so I'm going to hand it to you.
Okay, before we get started with our first question, each candidate will have about 2 minutes to answer the question. And then once we finish answering some questions, then we'll open it up to the floor. Okay? All right, my first question, and we'll start at the very end here, is can you please tell us about yourself and why you're running for this seat?
There we go. Okay. Thank you. So we had a mobilization readiness test, and this was the first time my family was going to come and see me compete at the college level. None of those leaders, all they had to do was say, Fant, we got you, you're good to go. Counted in the president accounted for. Go to your track meet. Unfortunately, none of them did that, and I just remember how frustrating that was. I didn't feel that I had a voice. And I remember that was 30 plus years ago. I know that people don't feel that they have a voice now. Right? And I've always stuck up for people who feel they don't have a voice, which is part of the reason why I'm running. I know we're looking for leadership. I know we're looking for someone that's going to stand on their faith, that believes in family and service. So that's why I'm running for Harrisburg Town Council.
Is that alive? Okay, great. Sorry about that. My name is Chris Faw. I've been in Harrisburg for almost 30 years, and My wife and I chose Harrisburg 30 years ago when our children were growing up because of the schools. She had a criteria when we moved, and we've moved 3 times inside of Harrisburg. I never want to live more than 1 mile from here. I like the dry cleaning lady. I like the guy who drops the UPS package. This is home. So we want to protect and defend everything that's made Harrisburg our home, our community, great for our kids, and now my grandkids. Can't believe it. I got old overnight. I don't know what happened. It'll happen to all you guys one day. You'll get old. I've had a very fortunate career. I've worked at a Fortune 100 company for 30 plus years. I'm nearing retirement. I have to have something to occupy my mind, and I want to give back. Harrisburg, again, is home. It's done so much for me, my family. Can't tell you how many times I've driven home late at night from an airplane ride, and I'd see that little "Welcome to Harrisburg" sign, and I said, this is where I want to be. There's a lot of things facing Harrisburg. There's growth. Now, we all got there as quick as we could, but, well, let's just slow down. I don't know when we need everybody here. But we'd love to have better retail, but I don't want the traffic. So there's a balance that needs to be struck. And again, I've never been in politics. I've never run for office, except to say the Alphas always put on a great party. I do know that. I did go to college, so I do know that. Think of me as your reasonable neighbor, somebody who would do what you would do. Everybody's got a job. Everybody's got kids. They're running crazy. I know I did for years. Who's deciding whether we'll put food trucks downtown? Who's deciding whether we're going to buy another fire truck or only put new neighborhoods in that build greenways or have roundabouts? I want to help with that, and I want to give back. So I'd appreciate it if you would think Chris Fall for Harrisburg. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Holden. I am running for City Council in Kannapolis. I am the only Kannapolis person up here, so I hope so. This would be a great start to it. No, I am a lifelong Kannapolis area resident. I actually was born and raised just outside of city limits in Rowan County. Came up through Rowan Salisbury schools, and I graduated from Catawba College with my bachelor's degree in political science. For the last decade, I've been involved in many different clubs, organizations, committees, and different groups in my community, really just to get an understanding of what's going on. I wanted to give back. I wanted to participate. I wanted to be involved. And so back in 2013, 2014, I got started. In an official capacity, I've served with the Rowan County Historic Landmarks Commission. I've also served with the City of Kannapolis Environmental Stewardship Committee, and I currently serve on the Board of Adjustments with the city. I'm really dedicated to this. This is something I'm really passionate about. And yeah, I hope you'll consider me and just keep an eye out for me. Thanks, y'all.
Good evening. I'm Latricia Glover, and I'm a candidate for Harrisburg Town Council. Part of why I'm running for Harrisburg is I see my future in Harrisburg. My husband and I bought our house in Harrisburg in 2015. I have had a unique perspective to watch Harrisburg grow because I am native to Cabarrus County. I was born in what was once Cabarrus Memorial Hospital that is now Atrium Cabarrus. And I remember where my house is today. I remember when that was farmland. So I'm very excited to have my family here, to be raising my family here. But then also that we see our future here, and I want to help make decisions on what that future looks like. Providing or restoring the progressive voice back to the Harrisburg Town Council and making sure that those voices are centered in Cabarrus County, but especially in the town of Harrisburg where we plan to reside. As my platform says, I'm strongly concerned about our small businesses in Harrisburg and being able to support those, and then also our growth here in Harrisburg, and most importantly, to make sure that our town continues to attract and retain the best candidates to work in the town. So thank you again, and I'm Latricia Glover for Harrisburg Town Council.
Good evening. I'm Brian King. I am running for re-election for Concord City Council. This will be, I've had 2 terms, so I've done this for about 7.5 years, and I really have enjoyed my time on council. I was born and raised in Concord. And I see Ann Fleming, one of my classmates. I think me and Ann have been running together since I was probably a kid. So she can vouch for maybe, I don't know how I want you to, she can tell me, I don't know. If y'all want to hear some stories, you can talk to Ann. But anyway, we had a good time growing up here in Concord, and Ann can tell you, and everybody can. You know, you asked why we run for our positions, and you know, when I first ran the first time, I'd been very involved in Concord, and I always have been. And people talk about Brian King loves Concord and da-da-da, and I know that's a cliche, but I really do ride around and look at things that I'd love to see Concord do or Concord to preserve. I mean, there are things that we are one of the most popular cities in the entire country, and we're not going to stop the growth, but we have to make sure I don't want to say control it, but we have to manage that growth in a lot of ways. And I think that me having a small business in Concord as a financial planner, being connected with people I grew up with, and also meeting new businesses coming to town and new people, it's given me a really good, my ears to the ground in Concord. And I feel like I have a really good grasp of the heart and soul of what we want to be and what we have been and what we want to be in the future. And so I'm just very adamant. I mean, this place, I was thinking about whether I should run again, and a couple of my friends said, Brian, what else would you do? This is your hobby now. I mean, this is what I do. He said, Brian, you're a city councilman. This is what you do. And so it's a huge passion to me, and I've very devotedly served this capacity for 8 years now almost, and it's just something that I always live by the motto, if you don't do it, who else will? Like things don't just happen by accident. You have to make it happen. And I feel like I've been very good over the years, even before council, of motivating certain groups to get towards a common goal and bringing consensus about something and then taking that action and getting it done. So I hope that you'll vote for me. And again, this is my passion, and I love this place, and hope you'll tell your friends. And if anybody ever wants to, I know Andy and Jennifer are up here with me. They're existing council members, and we're not running against each other, by the way. But I know both of them, along with me, are very dedicated to returning phone calls and emails. And I know Andy tells people that all the time, and he does, and we all do. So even before if y'all need to call me, ask me some questions, you can find my number. So thank you, Andy.
I'm Andy Langford. And running for Concord City Council for my second time. I was born in Charlotte, raised in Durham, went to Davidson College, Duke University, Emory University, and got degrees at all those places. For the 40 years of my working life, I was a United Methodist pastor, serving congregations and communities. And I'm pleased to be in Solomon's church here at Pleasant Grove. Solomon and I have known each other for a while. What I learned in the ministry is that the thing that gives you the most joy in life is serving other people. And in ministry, you do that in certain ways. You preach, you teach, you hold people's hands, you go to the hospital. For the last 15 years of my ministry, I've served at Central United Methodist in downtown Concord, the church just across the street from the library. And when we retired, we decided we would stay in Concord, and we love this place. And the first year of retirement was great, and then my city councilman, Sam Leader, died. And Sam was a good friend, and I got to participate in his funeral service. And after that, people said, well, Andy, you should do that. You're retired. And you understand about service the way Sam did, the way other people in the council do. And said, sure, I think I know how this system works. And I was wrong. I didn't know what I didn't know about Concord. 110,000 people, a budget of $350 million, over 1,200 employees. Our footprint is larger than Washington, D.C. or San Francisco. And our job as city council, as Brian said, is to manage this complex organization for the sake of everybody in this community. Concord is not just downtown Concord. We span a lot of people. We had the International Festival last weekend with 60 nations represented. All those people are citizens of our town. So I've enjoyed 4 years of serving. I've learned a lot. And hopefully, with your support, we'll be able to serve 4 more years. Thank you.
My memo said, Jennifer, the greatest things and the greatest things that you do in your life are going to be at your home. And so I did that for a long time. And the gentleman that was on council, we're districted in Concord. And so in District 6, he sat in that seat for 30 years. And my father approached me one day and said, have you ever thought about running for political office? And I said, no, I have not. It has never crossed my mind. And the mayor at the time kind of mentioned the same thing, and I said, well, this gentleman's been in the seat for 30 years. He's gotten reelected. Like, I don't know anything about politics, but I do know that would be a really stupid move. He passed away in office that year, and so midterm, when someone passes away, they have to appoint someone to that seat. And my name is Jennifer Parsley. My new name is Jennifer Parsley Hubbard. I just got married, and so I'm still trying that out. Not him out. I'm not trying him out. He's good. Just the name. I'm getting used to it. And so in 2012, I was what my mama said, right? I went before this council with all these other people, and I stood before them, and they said, why do you think you should be here? Why do you think you should be in this seat? Exactly the same thing. And I stood before them, and I just told my story. And I said, because I think we need regular people, right? I think we need people that are housewives, and we need people that are in small businesses, and we need people that are going out in the world every day. And what I learned, and what Andy said, I learned a lot that I didn't know, but I also learned a lot that we need regular people. And government that's closest to the people impacts our lives so much more. And I hate that these pews are not filled like they are, I'm sure, for Solomon on Sunday mornings, right? Because government closest to the people makes the biggest differences in their lives. So I want to first say thank you for being here. And the second reason that I'm here is because I believe that. I believe that the closest to the people we are, we drive the streets, we do the same things, and we get to make decisions based on how we live our lives every day. So that's the reason I'm here. I started with the change at home. I still do that. I still hear my mama's voice, and then I heard her say, it's time to go out now and make that change and do the difference in the community. So my name is Jennifer Parsley Hubbard, and I am with the Concord City Council. Thank you.
Now can we this is loud. Can we put our hands together for all of the candidates and yourselves? We thank you. It is greatly appreciated. This next question is actually going to be for you all as well. We'll start with Mrs. Parsley Hubbard, and then we'll make our way down as well. In your experience as a leader, what are the 3 most important things a leader does to keep the community members engaged and moving towards the right direction?
Will you repeat that one more time?
Absolutely, absolutely. In your experience as a leader, what are the 3 most important things a leader does to keep the community members engaged and moving in the right direction?
Okay. So I got to go back to my memo because we're in church. My grandfather was a Baptist minister. He was in the pulpit for 60 years. She always told me, the Lord gives you 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? And I think the one of the biggest things, and I know you said 3, but I think the top thing has got to be listening, right? We don't know what Andy said. We don't know what we don't know. And so as a leader, if we are not constantly listening and then asking questions and then listening, those are my 3 things. because my day job is a real estate agent, and I'll never forget the first house that I showed. I was so excited, and we walked in this house, and I'm standing in front of the individuals that are behind me, and there are these really ugly curtains, and they're matched with this really ugly wallpaper, and I said, wow. And I turned around, and they said, I know, we love it, right? And what hit me in that moment was, don't ever give your opinion, right? Because everybody's different. And that's the big thing, I think, in listening, is that we have to remember that if we don't listen and if we don't keep our mouth shut and ask before we give our opinion, then we've lost that. Then you've lost all complete engagement from that perspective. So listening, asking questions, and listening, that's the way to keep people engaged.
This is going to get repetitive because I think every one of us is going to say, listen first. Unless you hear what other people are saying to you and not projecting your ideas upon them, that's the only way one begins to be a leader. Listen. The second thing is to catch what the vision is that people are saying. You hear from this person and that person and that person. What do they all share in common? Where are they saying we want to go? And a function of a leader is to be able to articulate what you have just said to me in a way that moves us forward. And the third one is to be willing to make some hard decisions. There have been occasions on this council that people come and say, you've got to do this, or you've got to do this, or my neighborhood demands this. And you listen, and you understand what the vision is for the entire city. And then you have to be willing at times to say yes, but willing at times to say no. And that's not always a lot of fun. A lot of our emails and calls are people who think we were not listening to them, but we really were, but we're listening to all 110,000 people in this city. An illustration. After the George Floyd death, there was a rally downtown that gathered 2,000 people in front of the courthouse. It was a wonderful mixed community, and people spoke, and they spoke very well. And they said to us, I was just simply standing, are you listening to us? Are you listening to us? And in response, the city council, for the first time, named a thing called the Concord United Committee, which is our racial equity justice committee. And there are people who are not pleased that we were going to do that. But say, we have a diverse community. Sometimes voices are not being heard. We have to go forward and make sure that they speak to us. And so, listen, catch a vision, and be willing to say no or yes.
And just piggybacking on that committee, that goes back to what we've been saying is, you don't know what you don't know, and that committee has really brought a lot of that vision and more voices to us that we just never heard from. But I'm going to be redundant as well. First thing popped into my mind is listening, and I'm not going to expound on that much more other than just saying, we represent we all see things through different lenses, and we all have different experiences in the world, and everybody has different opinions. And I think a good leader opens their ears and opens their heart and tries to understand. Sometimes people aren't able to tell you, and sometimes you have to even reach out as a leader to listen, because some people feel like they aren't in a position, or we're just city council people, we're just normal people. Like Jennifer said, we're just normal people. But some people are like, I'm not going to tell that to the city councilman. But sometimes we have to reach out. So I think in order to be good leaders, and I think Concord tries to do that, is we have to not only listen, but reach out even further and try to squeeze it out of people so we can understand from everybody what we want from the community. And then the other thing is, we have to be able to enact that. We have to plan well. We have to understand how to build that consensus. And the way you do that, and I think this hasn't been mentioned yet, and I think most people up here would agree, is we have to be transparent. That's a big thing. There are many times in government people feel disengaged because your government or your council members or whoever is doing things behind the scenes, and to not explain things to people and why you're doing things. I think the second part of the question is how to keep people motivated towards that. So you figure out the spirit of what everybody wants. You listen, figure out that spirit, but then you communicate. The communication back to people and that transparency as to why you're doing those things is hugely important. So I think being a good leader is someone who, and also rolls up your sleeves and gets in it with them. Leaders are supposed to be pulling the wagon too. So I think, you don't sit high on your horse and tell people, to do something. You get in the trenches with them and do that and listen, communicate, be transparent. So that's it. Thank you.
So when I think of leadership, there are three words that come to mind: connection, advocacy, and communication. So connection, I always want to be associated with that. That's super easy for me. I'm a social worker. That is the core of who I am, to be able to build connection with people. When people know that you're listening, they know that you care, they are very likely to share what their concerns are with you. And so I always want to make sure that I have that. And then advocacy, again, one of my core values. Taking that information that I've received and advocating for the best interests of the people in my community. And the third part of that is, communication. And making sure that I'm able to respond back and say yes or no why this didn't happen, or this may happen later on. It may not happen right now. And making sure that we're giving a why to that, and also letting individuals or the community know that it's not something that is going to just stop here. When the opportunity presents itself to bring it up again, I absolutely will take the opportunity to do that.
It is on. For me, again, we're all going to say similar things up here, because when it comes to leadership, being open and listening and being transparent is really important in a leader. It's really important in keeping individuals committed and involved, especially our constituents that we may represent or we already represent. For me too, I think it's really important that everyone understands the issues that are really impacting them. I've said that to some people, and they kind of look at me a little funny, and they think, well, education and making sure that the community is understanding of the issues that are going on. That what's going on in your city council meetings, what's going on in your local government. I think that's really important. I really think that's an important aspect of a leader, that they're willing to go out in the communities, they're willing to talk about the issues that we're seeing on city council. Also, of course, listening is really important for someone to listen, to hear, to be understanding. In my roles in both customer service and in real estate, it's been important to listen to my clients and my customers and what they're saying. And so in a public setting, it's really important that when my constituents are coming up to me, that they know they have someone sitting there and they're listening to them, that I'm going to try my best to understand where they're coming from. And if I don't, I'm going to ask. And then thirdly, I'm going to say it's really important for a leader to be responsive. So I know y'all were talking about every email, every phone call they get, they respond to it. They're open, and I think that's really important for a leader. I think that keeps people engaged, that keeps people involved, and it means that you ask one question to someone, you know that person's going to answer it. So you're willing to ask more. You're willing to stay more involved and be more of an advocate for even your community. So, yeah, I think that's really important. And again, we're all probably going to say similar things up here tonight, but I'd say those are the three most important things for me and a leader.
I'm going to push on the listen thing a little bit. Henry Ford said a long time ago, if I'd listened to my customer, I would have built him a bigger, faster horse. I gave him a car. I think that's incumbent, and there's a lot of smart people. And by the way, look who showed up for Harrisburg. Just remember that, and you guys are advocates. Say, look who didn't show up tonight. So I love these guys. You can tell that story over and over. You know who didn't show up to our meeting? So I don't know where they are. But nobody asked Steve Jobs for an iPhone. He came up with that. And I'll give you a concrete example of what's going on in Harrisburg right now. I'm on the Parks and Rec Committee. And we're going to do a survey, and we're going to go out and ask everybody, what do you want in your parks and rec? And I suspect they're going to say, well, we need more facilities, and we need to leave the lights on later. But if you'd asked 6 years ago, would anybody have said, we need a cricket ball, or pickleball, or we need a cricket field? We've got to be the thought leaders. We have more time to occupy our minds with, hey, I think I know what they want. They want a better quality of life. They want something that we haven't thought of. I've got a real job during the day. Let somebody else worry about that. We're going to do the survey. We're going to ask everybody. We're going to listen. They're going to say they want more baseball fields and they want Timmy to hit a home run every time. But they're not going to necessarily know what a future park looks like. That's what we've got to do. We've got to be the thought leader. We've got to say, what do you want to be known for? And these things take time. And I appreciate that you've been on, because you know how long it takes to get things done, right? It could take a couple of cycles. But then 10, 15 years from now, you say, wow, why is there this thing in Harrisburg? Because 15 years ago, they did a survey, and out of that survey, the town said they wanted to be known for something. Now this is what we're known for. This is our brand. This is who we are, and that's what we need to do. We do need to listen, but we need to double-click on that listen. What are they really asking for? And do they even know what they're asking for? And can we help them through that journey? Thanks for that.
Thanks for that question. My three, the first one is, and I go back to the Marine Corps. I was in Iraq, and I let an airplane go without Marines in it. That cost y'all $100,000. One of the toughest things I had to do was own that. Right? So I think leaders have to own. It's easy to own the good. It's tough to own the bad. Bad news certainly doesn't get better with time. I learned that the tough way. But after owning that, we fixed it. And I lived through it. So I learned to own those things that if I make a mistake, I can own it, because I'm certainly going to own the great things. The next thing is communication. I just believe we all want to, know that we're informed, and we have an expectation, I think, for if you're getting your car serviced, or if something's going on with your house, or even things in your community. The best piece of advice is communicating, right? So you don't have to go look for it. You shouldn't have to go look for it. I think it's very important to go look for it. It's very important to communicate those things, especially when I expect something. I need to communicate that, and I need to be clear about that. I've always found success when I've built relationships. I think relationships are extremely important. As a former congressional staffer, I had to learn that, because you go in to help people who don't particularly like that D or that R. So building those relationships and understanding that, getting it out that I'm there to help you. I'm here to build a relationship, not just solve a problem and get out your hair. Building those relationships, I just believe that you get more out of it when you're building those relationships. It's hard to find that anger when you have a relationship. And so those are my three: relationships, communications, and own those mistakes.
This next question, we're just gonna kind of be kind of sporadic, so if you guys could stay on your toes a little bit. I'll start with Mr. Wendell. You are a new candidate, correct? That's all right.
I am.
What would you like to accomplish?
Everything, right? Everything good. Really, for me, it's about legacy. I have a son, and my goal is to leave him a legacy. I understand the importance of a legacy and what that means. Harrisburg is an amazing place to live and grow. I believe we need, as an educator, I believe we need to keep the talent that we are growing and educating locally. I believe if we do that, Harrisburg is just going to continue to grow in better ways, right? It's going to be hard to stop that growth. It's going to be really hard because it's a great place. But if I could encourage those individuals, high school and college, to come back and be a part of that community, serve in that community, I believe that will be a big win. You know, it's not. I believe in businesses. I believe in the mom and pop shops. I believe in supporting all of those. But those wouldn't survive without the great thoughts that's coming up, this next generation that's coming up. Sometimes that we don't think the way that they do. They don't think the way that we do, right? Smartest people in the room, the older individuals, are the ones that listen to those younger individuals, right? Those younger individuals, smartest ones of those, listen to the older, right? Because you can learn from anybody. Right? You got to be open. So if I could encourage those individuals to stay and use and showcase their talents within Harrisburg, giving them a reason to do that, I think that's a win.
I like the legacy idea, and I think that's important. I think that requires a lot of what you said earlier, advocacy. Got to have an idea, then you got to be willing to stand up for it and advocate for it, and the going's going to get tough there for a little while.
I'm so sorry. We're going one person per question. I do apologize.
No,
No, I'm sorry.
I messed up the format.
It's okay. It's okay.
That was clearly somebody else who did that.
Well,
Sorry about that.
no,
I
you're
owned
okay.
it. I owned it.
No
He's
problem.
a Marine. I'm doing 10 push-ups. All right.
Not a problem. We're coming back to you. Back to you.
all right.
Promise.
I'm sorry.
Next question is for Mr. Brian King. What have you accomplished in your term?
Wow. Well, there's been a lot, but one of the things I'm very proud of is to have led Concord along with my fellow council members through a period of very good fiscal responsibility. We've grown, been one of the fastest growing cities. When I came onto council, we were not making national rankings for one of the best places in the nation for livability. We have not raised our tax rate in Concord since I've been on council. Gosh, I could talk all day about some of the good things we've done, but one of the things I think that I really feel like my hands are in a lot is one of our Greenway Master Plan. When I came to on council, I was very adamant about making sure that we had a Greenway Master Plan in place so that when new developments come about or new industries come on board, what we found now is that we're getting some of that land donated now because they can say, well, gosh, you're going to have a greenway coming through here, so we're going to make that a part of an amenity for us so that we as taxpayers don't have to pay for it. So one day, maybe I'll be alive when this whole master plan's complete and we can go from one side of Concord to the other without having to get in a car and get on our bikes and do that. I think our new Parks and Rec Master Plan is something I'm very proud of. I think in Concord is a place where I really do not want to be a bedroom community. So I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to attract jobs for people so that they don't have to drive to Charlotte and work and then come back here and live. We've worked very hard of not having Concord be that bedroom community. I'm very proud of the way we've held tight to some of our industrial property when we may have had pressure to convert that to residential. We've set our incentives. Is that my beep? Okay. Well, a lot of things, but making it a very livable city, making it a place where you want to live and a lot of amenities to play in, and I'm just proud of keeping our costs down to do that. So. Thank you for the question.
Okay, we're going to switch it up a little bit for our candidates. There are 152,000 voters, active voters in Cabarrus County. Of those, also, there are 19,000 inactive voters in Cabarrus County. My question is, what is the biggest obstacle or reasons that keep people from getting politically involved? And that question is geared more towards those inactive voters. How can we get them to be active and continue to engage those that are active? And that question is going to go to Mr. Andy.
One of the biggest issues has to do with our political climate in this country and in the state that comes down to the local community. The more global we become, the more tribal we become. We care less about other people, and we only defend our own people. And I think Jennifer said it well. The level of our political system that most affects your life is the local one. CNN reports on what's happening in Washington, D.C., or read the Charlotte Observer and find out what's happening in Raleigh. But if you care about how your trash gets picked up and about how quickly the police can respond, or Concord City doesn't do with education, but how children are educated, those things that affect your life are most made at the local level. And so everybody focuses on who's running for the president. That's an interesting question. We all have our opinion about that. But you really need to be asking about, as Brian said, the quality of life where we live. And that's a really hard lift right now because I think people are disgusted, they're exhausted, they're anxious. One of the interesting things about all of us running is these are nonpartisan races. Some of us are independent, some are Republican, some are Democrat, but that doesn't appear on the ballot. Martin has the ballots over here. There's no DNR. You're not voting for a party, you're voting for persons who will provide services that you deem important. And if we can convince people of that, there's no reason we shouldn't have more voting in local elections than in state or national.
Okay. This next question goes to Mr. Sides. My question is, how do you believe, and it goes on about influencing, or how do you believe you can influence people to increase their engagement at the local level?
I think being a political science major and going to school for that, things like this is stuff we kind of studied. We tried to understand of how to get more people involved and more people active. I think local advocacy and highlighting important issues that are impacting local communities are really important. And I think that's really what's can help drive people to be involved and to be advocates at their local level. I think it's really important. I really do. That and understanding the issues that are impacting everyone.
All right. Our next question is going to be, what do you think are the most pressing issues facing your municipality? And where should our priorities be? And that question is going to go to Mr. Chris.
I feel like I used up some of my time earlier, but thanks for that. We have opportunity in Harrisburg, and I think one of the things, we were blessed with a lot of things in Harrisburg. one thing is missing. We don't have a downtown. You notice that? We have a town center, and I think it has a lot of opportunity if handled properly. We had a little thing called COVID come along and slow it down. We're getting the YMCA, and it's moving over to a beautiful facility, and I'm happy to say that my wife Kathy and I just wrote a big fat check, and we'll have a brick and everything out front. We're trying to do everything we can for the YMCA out there. Facilities like that are a huge opportunity and things that we can rally around. I walk through town center and I kind of scratch my head, like, where are all the buildings? I think that is a wonderful opportunity if handled properly. We don't want to, just stuff a Walmart in there. We'd like to be able to go downtown and buy a pair of shoes and live here, buy here. So it needs to be controlled growth, needs to be done in a carefully curated manner that adds character to our town. And then think about what it's going to look like 10, 15 years from now. Somebody said, hey, we need a Lowe's. Okay, what if Lowe's goes out of business? Now you got a big box stuck in the middle of your town for the next 15 years and it becomes a Big Lots. Is that what we wanted? I don't think so. So carefully controlled growth and thinking ahead and being willing to advocate for that and say, this is what we are, this is who we are, this is who we're going to be. So thank you.
And I'm going to ask that same question to Ms. Parsley. What do you think are the most pressing issues facing your municipality, and where should your priorities be?
Growth, 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 right? Those are our three pressing issues. However, I will say I serve on a board at the state level, and I sit beside of individuals from towns that are having discussions as to which high school to close, right? And so we have to remember, and I think part of that, what we need to focus on is what a blessing it is to live in a place where we have that challenge. So I think first of that is a mindset shift. I completely understand that the traffic out in front of your house is not like it was 10 years ago. I completely understand that one email that we get at least daily is no more apartments. Like, I hear you, I understand that, right? So there's all of these things that are coming up from the growth perspective, but they are opportunities. And I'll kind of piggyback on Harrisburg, same thing. I think it's really important because I think there's a balance between controlling, right? Because we don't want government controlling things, but directing is the word that I like to use to say, what are we doing to make sure that we're directing the opportunities that we have and the things that come up? For Concord particularly, we just passed a Parks and Rec bond, and so we're really enhancing that quality of life. One of the things I'm sure you guys have heard with the Eli Lilly and Company project, and one of the things that I love about economic development is, first of all, I think it's like this nebulous thing that nobody really understands what it is until you experience it. But I was having a discussion with my hairdresser the other day who was saying that, there's this big company that's come into town and that's bringing all these jobs, and that's great, but it doesn't impact me. And so then the funny thing is, and I'm telling you, like, the Lord set this up, like 6 weeks later, I met a lady that works for Eli Lilly that relocated here that said, just so y'all know, when you got curly hair, like, you got to have somebody special that does curly hair. And she said, who should I go to? And I referred her to my hairdresser, right? So it's that circle of life, if you will, from that perspective of small business, large business, Parks and Rec, and those opportunities for growth and harnessing that.
Thank you. We all believe in adequate and safe housing, and this next question is for Ms. Glover. What do you see as your town council role in helping address housing needs?
So housing in Harrisburg is unique because it's in our town charter that we cannot have apartments. So what that looks like in Harrisburg, I believe making sure that when we grow our town, we're intentionally growing our town, and that we are not catering to certain demographics. We should be able to have homes in Harrisburg at various price points. And those not be located, like the lower priced homes not be located in our flood zones. Like if we intentionally build Harrisburg the way it should be built to avoid those floods, then we can be able to grow our town intentionally. But again, Our town is unique in not having apartments, and we do cherish our green space. We're at a little bit of a conflict in Harrisburg, though, because we want to have green space, we want to grow. So at some point, that means you have to go up. So I don't really know what that looks like long term. Those are definitely things that we will have to really dig into to figure out how to address that. But yeah, that's Harrisburg.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And while we're in the spirit of housing, the next question will be for you, Andy. Outside the We Build Concord, what affordable housing initiatives do you want to see?
Outside of We Build, let me remind people what We Build is. Several years ago, our council had a commitment towards affordable housing. So we set up an independent, self-governing body to do affordable housing. Last year, they built 70 affordable housing units. They're on track to do another 70 this year. Our council has committed a minimum of $1.5 million for doing that. But it means we're also doing things like we do allow apartments. Not everybody likes that. Yesterday, or what day was it, we had an African-American couple who created a 15-unit affordable housing community on the site of an old daycare system. They said, we want to have housing in this community because we don't have enough. We're going to put our own money in it. Will the city support us and make sure that happens? And we said, yes. That's exactly what we want to do. So a lot of We Build is huge. It may be the best nonprofit group dealing with affordable housing in the United States. There are people coming from all over to see what we're doing. Are we doing enough? No. We need at least 5,000 more units. And we've got to keep going at it. But Concord's got to be open to every citizen, whether you're making minimum wage or whether you're the president of Eli Lilly.
My next question is going to go to Mr. Brian King. What gaps do you see in the infrastructure and transit in your communities, and how would you address those gaps?
Well, one of the things that I've realized in the time I've been on council is a lot of our, and I assume you're talking about public transit, is that correct? Yes. Okay, public transit, yeah. It's heavily geared for, based on a lot of federal grants that we get. So we've got a really good department head, LJ, and our staff what we're working on right now is more regionalism. So, you know, in some of the best case scenarios, you see, you know, right now Concord is working, our CAT system is working with Kannapolis, but one of the things that we need to do is work more regionally with maybe Centralina, for example, and we're trying to maybe consolidate some of our systems. That's something that we're tossing about right now, whether we should be an authority or whether Concord, right now Concord's leading some of the CATS programs and Kannapolis sort of pays us to lead, but we're just trying to decide whether we should consolidate with the county as well. Right now, if you wanted to go from the doctor's office home, or let's say you wanted to go to the doctor's office and you needed to go to the grocery store, okay, and you didn't have a car. Well, the county does one thing, and then the city does another thing right now. So one of the biggest gaps I see is us not having a consolidated effort to allow for, and a lot of this is dictated by federal grants, but if we had one consolidated authority, and even regionally we could do this, where somebody doesn't have to go from the grocery store back home and then call the person to then take them to the doctor's office. You know, that wastes somebody's a week. So, you know, that's the biggest gap I see is some of the the fragmentation of the systems that we have in place. And if we could, and we are working on that, we're trying to consolidate all those services. So to answer your question, that's something I think we can work on and do a lot better with.
Thank you.
This next question will be for Holden. Do you think that the nation would benefit from more immigrants or fewer immigrants? Why or why not?
More, 100%. I think immigrants bring a lot of different things to our communities and to our country, from diversity and expanded understanding of the world around us. Immigrants are really beneficial and can really improve a community at large. So in brief, absolutely, I think we need more immigrants. I believe that they definitely better the community that they're in, both through culture, through just their impacts in the community is really important. So more immigrants in the community, 100%. Plain and simple.
Okay, we're going to switch up and we're going to talk about entrepreneurship. All right, what opportunities and resources are available for upward mobility and entrepreneurship? As we know that we've had the big companies coming into Cabarrus County, Amazon, Eli Lilly. What are we going to do to help entrepreneurs that have small businesses throughout Cabarrus County? And this question is going to go to Mr. Wendell.
Thank you for that question. Entrepreneurship. I think it starts in the high school. For those that are, interested in, you have a lot of high schoolers that are interested in entrepreneurship and not interested really in going to college. I think we have to show them that it's possible, that they can have those opportunities within the community. I think we need to support our entrepreneurs, our mom and pop shops. Eli Lilly is going to be okay. Lowe's is going to be okay. They're all fine. But I think it's really special when you can really support what you have there locally. It's so segmented and it becomes personal and it becomes a relationship that's my restaurant. That's where I go to. So I just think that there's should just be a movement where we just really not talk about it, not one weekend out of a month, but really focus in and support those individuals so that they know that they do at least have a shot, right? Again, Harrisburg is an amazing place to live, and it's an amazing place to work. I do both there. And so if we make it where it is a possibility and a desirable thing to do, I just think that more individuals would do it. And if they fail, that's okay. You learn nothing from doing everything right. You learn from failure. And so let them know that failure is okay. It's possible that's going to happen. But support them when they do. Provide them the resources and the education that they need to be successful whenever they decide to take that road of entrepreneurship.
Thank you. This next question will be for Mr. Fall. What would you do to ensure diversity in economic development?
Come on. One of the things I think is, and I've learned this in my career, diversity makes the world go around. Where I work, 40% of our employees are African American. 49% of the executives I work with are women. And I'm telling you, I learn from it every day. It's very comfortable for me. It feels good. My wife and I just sponsored a scholarship at Western Carolina University. Any cats in here? Didn't think so, all right. But that was one of the criteria for getting the scholarship was an advancement for diverse candidates. First generation, English as a second language. And I do think you learn more from that than you do hiring yourself. I have a lot of chance to hire people. I have 500 employees that work for me now. My job is to hire somebody who doesn't look like me, walk like me, talk like me, because we already got me. I need somebody else to bring me a different viewpoint and speak truth to power and tell me what's going on, tell me something I don't know. If I hire me, I'm going to get wonderful reinforcement, I'm going to feel good about myself, and I'm going to be out of a job in 2 years. So I think that's what makes the world go around. And the more diversity you can bring, the more insight that you bring, the more 360-degree view of an issue that you bring. So I think it's very important. We need to encourage that.
Thank you. I would actually like to ask that same question to Ms. Glover. What would you do to ensure diversity in economic development?
So in economic development, especially in Harrisburg, I think that looks like connecting with our diverse small businesses that we have. Just making sure that I understand what brought them to Harrisburg, what they feel like is making them be successful in Harrisburg, and then expanding that and drawing in additional diverse opportunities in Harrisburg. Then also, if we expand that across the different employment opportunities that we have in Harrisburg, specifically in our fire departments, if we want to make sure that we are attracting diverse candidates, and that means both in gender and race, making sure that there's opportunity for employment, and then once they're there, growth. Making sure that we are not training people to then go to a neighboring county, that they want to stay in Harrisburg, to make sure again that those dollars maintain and continue to be in Harrisburg.
This next question would be for Ms. Presley. By law, the city council can fund public schools, although councils assessing the state do not allocate funding to public schools. Would you support a line item in the budget for the public schools in your municipality?
Repeat that question for me, just one time.
Okay. By law, the city council can fund public schools, although councils assessing the state do not allocate funding to public schools. Would you support a line item in the budget for the public schools in your municipality?
I think we already do that. And the way that we do that is very different from probably the exact way that you're asking that question, that like there's a line item in our budget and it's X dollars to the schools. And the reason that we already do that is because I don't believe that government operates in silos. While the county is 100% the individuals that work from a school perspective, when they purchase a piece of land and the road infrastructure has to change, counties don't do roads, the cities do roads, right? And so I think the answer to your question is already, yes, we already do that. That is something that we do support from a city perspective, and I would support and continue to do so. When the schools come in, looking at land, different things like that, there's a lot of overlap that we already work with the county on, and specifically with the school systems. So the answer is yes, because we do not individually operate from a governmental perspective as individuals in any way whatsoever.
Okay, Mr. Andy, I know that there has been an influx of charter schools and private schools in Cabarrus County. So would you, what is your stance on private school vouchers?
This is probably not what you want to hear. One of the issues I have discovered being on city council is the state sets very clear guardrails about what we can do and cannot do. We can help at times with schools, but we cannot, by our charter, help pay teachers. We cannot, by charter, build a new school. And therefore, the issue of charter schools, of private schools, that really is in some real sense, not real sense, it is real. There are boundaries that keep us from doing that. And so in some sense, I'll be willing to answer questions about stuff that we have some control over, but that's one where we really don't. Now, I have a personal feeling about that, but that doesn't affect how I act on city council.
Thank you for that question. This next question will be from Mr. Holden. We're going to go into the health side, we can say. How do you propose to meet more of health needs, physical, mental, or otherwise, of your community while in office?
So one thing that I am actually running on and is on my platform is mental health. That's something that is really important for me. It impacts everyone in different ways. And Kannapolis is in a unique position, I believe, to really be a leader in both the healthcare field, but also in mental health treatment and other healthcare needs. We have things in Kannapolis like the research campus and other avenues that we can take where we can, further expand on what we understand in healthcare and understand in mental health. I also believe that we have great opportunities to partner with the county and with the state to bring more facilities and more options to Kannapolis. It's probably been about maybe 6 or 7 months now, but recently at a city council meeting, someone had come up and spoke, and one thing that she mentions in her research of Kannapolis and how we can grow and expand was actually in healthcare, in the medical field. That's an avenue that Kannapolis really can take. So if I'm elected on city council, that's something I'm really going to push for. More healthcare options, better avenues for individuals to get no matter where you're at in the city, no matter what economic bracket you're at or any of your background or anything like that. Healthcare is essential for everyone, both in physical and in mental. So that's something I'm really going to advocate for, I'm really pushing for, and it's really important for me on a personal level. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that question. At this time, we are going to open up the floor for any questions that the audience might have. Don't be shy, guys. Come on up. Yep. If you would like to ask a question, just come on up, and we can just respectfully form a line this way.
Hi. So my name is Tia. I'm new to Concord, from Mecklenburg. And a friend of mine, so Brian, this is really a question mostly for Brian, Andy, and Jennifer. Y'all can feel free to chime in. But it's mostly for you three. So a friend of mine who lives like 2 minutes from me found out that a street in her neighborhood is like Confederate Avenue, right? And you saw the article because you responded to her, and we appreciate that. But basically, she's been trying to figure out what she can do to try to remove some of this hatred, ugliness away from her community, or our community. And she's been trying to petition for a monument downtown that's actually supposed to be removed this week or next week, she told me. She's been trying to get that done. But she has been reaching out. I've been reaching out. I've been trying to get other people to reach out. And we have not heard any responses around like what city council can do, if anything, to support in, if there's any way to support in some of these efforts. So that's kind of my open-ended question.
Thank you, Tia. I'll go first. You want me to go first? Well, first of all, I think that's in the Jackson neighborhood, the Jackson Park neighborhood. I've ridden in the Jackson Park neighborhood, and my wife used to live in the Jackson Park neighborhood. I still haven't found that road, by the way, but it's not that I don't believe it's not there. But at any rate, we have a policy in the city of Concord, and it's just something that we would have to completely change the policy. And the reason why we have it, and it makes sense if you think about it, the name of a road would affect, like if you renamed a certain road, we have it, and I don't know what the percentage is. What is it, 70%? If you have 70 or 60, it may not even be that high of a threshold, but if you'd have to have 70% of the people to agree to change the name of the road. The reason why is there are businesses sometimes on that road, or people don't want to change their address because it costs money to do so. Again, if that process, and regarding the monument, I'll talk about the monument too. Are you talking about the one in front of the old courthouse? Yeah. Yeah. So regarding that is on county property. So if they're taking that down, I think a lot of the monuments that were put up during Jim Crow days, you know, and they were less to honor something and more to stick their thumb in somebody's eye, you know. And I think some of those monuments, their time has come to go away. So I'm absolutely supportive of that. But as far as what city council can do for that, if it's on our property, you know, we can do something about it. But in this case, it's not on our property. So, you know, the county, it's just like people talk about the homeless sitting in front of the library. Well, we can't tell our officers to go do something about that because that's county property. And if they allow that, then it's not our property. And let me go back to the name of the street. It's a tough one. This is one of those things where, you know, we represent a wide variety of people, and we have these policies in place for certain reasons, and it's one of those things where I guess we can go in and change that policy. I feel like that could open up a can of worms. Sometimes I think when you do one thing, there's a lot of unintended consequences that you have to consider on the other side. And that's a challenge sometimes in council. Sometimes, you know, it may favor you in one manner, but if you change the policy, it may not favor you in another way. You know, so that's a really tough one. But it's that's my answer. We have a policy that you have to have 70% of the people sign off on it on that road, and right now that has not been reached, and we've conveyed that. So it would just take council to change that policy. Do you want them to?
My sense is Brian is absolutely correct about that. I find the name Confederate offensive. I do not like the Confederate monument. I acknowledge that I am the product of generational wealth because of the race I am. But if everybody on the street gets to rename the name of their street because I would like another name, that creates sheer chaos. And the same, and with the monument, it's been made very clear to us this is a county decision, not a city decision, and you have to trust us in doing that.
Other than I am happy to get you that information, and I do apologize if you didn't get that. I do remember we were giving out information. I don't remember your name, but if you want to see me after, I will make sure that you have exactly what you need.
Good evening. My name is Dana Driver. I am a homeowner in Cabarrus County, and I have a question about the emergence of a billion-dollar company in Concord, Eli Lilly, and I'm wondering if either one of you can articulate the benefits, pluses, minuses of such a large company on the impact of Concord, both demographically and economically.
Sure. Thank you for that question. We get that question asked a lot, right? Because I do agree. I think demographically, I'm seeing from a real estate perspective, a lot of people are coming in, right? So we're adding to our growth. When we look at zoning in the city, I think that's one of the ways that we can actually direct a lot of the growth in talking about the housing, even economic development. And that portion of land is all we have left from an industrial perspective. And I think, Brian, you even alluded to that we had kind of protected that. You know, I think the example that I used earlier, one of the things that I've seen, and I know that for a lot of people that larger companies coming in, especially like I was born and raised here, right? And so it was Cannon Mills, that was the only thing. You know, you had Philip Morris for a while, but they were kind of here. And then, so it's almost different when you're here now and then something comes in, it just feels different. And so I think part of that has been what we've seen the life cycle is, are they being a good corporate citizen? Because I will tell you that everybody preaches that, okay? And I'll say from the city, I don't want to speak on behalf of these two, but I think it's safe to say one of the things that we've seen from Lilly, because that was one of the examples that you gave, is they've been at every charitable organization, you know, luncheon that we've seen. They've donated millions of dollars back into the community. And so we're seeing that charitable aspect, which I know to me, from that personal perspective, they're moving individuals here that are now becoming residents of Concord. Their children are have the privilege now of walking the school halls right with our children. And so I think the emergence of that, just what I've seen, has been very eye-opening to me personally, because I've been able to meet some of those individuals and meet the children. And so I think from an economics perspective, one of the things that I have to say about Lilly is they have a huge diversity initiative. And so I've seen a lot of diversity come out of the individuals that they're hiring as well, which, again, I think just kind of attributes to what somebody said earlier, just a beautifully well-rounded community.
I would respond to that also. In our last 4 years, we have brought in $3 billion in new businesses, 22 companies. It is the policy of our council that we will only welcome you in and do those incentives if you pay more than the average. So when I came to this slate, we have developed 2,000 new jobs in the last 4 years, all of which pay a minimum of $60,000 a year plus benefits. Every one of those 2,000 people who's gotten a job, that changes your family. If you can make $60,000 a year plus benefits, and they come in and they pay taxes. Last year, Concord's budget went up 7%. That's huge. Your tax rate did not go up because all those new businesses are paying the difference. We're able to do the parks and the other things because those new businesses and some of those new residences are paying the bills. That's huge. And so that's about economic development, Brian.
And just to piggyback on that, I mean, if you think about it, just imagine the property out on Philip Morris, the old Philip Morris property where Eli Lilly's going right now. We had a tremendous amount of pressure over the past few years to redevelop, to rezone that into residential. When you build a lot of those rooftops, you've got to add a fire department, you've got to add new schools, you've got to add more roads, you've got to add the amount, you got new trash pickup, you've got all that. So even if they're $400,000 houses, that tax bill barely pays, if maybe pays for those new houses. But when you get a billion and a half dollar investment coming in, they're going to pay taxes on that, plus the equipment inside of that facility. They're paying taxes on that, property taxes. And again, like Andy said, that offsets that. So, and I will say too, Jennifer, you mentioned a lot of the new people, but we all have seen too a lot of upward mobility from this. I know a lot of people who have been, waitresses or, people that are now getting jobs. Eli Lilly is aggressively recruiting. They're out at the fair. They were at the International Festival the other day. They set up booths everywhere. And I know that Eli Lilly would be very happy for me to say, if you're looking for a job, they are looking for you, and they have good jobs, and their average salary is $90-some thousand right now, and they're hiring 500 to 600 people, and they would love to have you come interview, and they've got a very vast array of jobs there. So I think it's wonderful that we continue to recruit that. And one thing I'll say, too, is I'm really proud about when I got on council, and this was, Jennifer was on, you weren't new, but you were fairly new. But we, Sam and I got on council, and we started looking at the economic incentive packages, and we all, as a council, said, why are we incentivizing these businesses that are going to come here anyway? Why are we giving them an incentive? And they're also paying under the salary. These were like distribution companies. We have nothing against an Amazon distribution company coming to Concord, but they're paying under our city wage. So why are we giving them an incentive? So we changed our fishing lure. Everybody fishing here? I like fishing. Well, I know if I want to catch some brim, I'm going to have a bobber and a cricket. But if I want to go catch a big fish, I'm going to put a big lure on there. So we changed our lure a little bit, and we started catching bigger fish and maintaining our industrial property. So we changed our economic development strategy and started getting those types of high-quality manufacturing jobs that's going to lead us into
whatever next century is. So, thank you.
I don't know why I'm feeling nervous because for those of you all who know me, but I want to go back to, and I don't think I have as much of a question as one of my comments, but I'm going to go back to the question that the young lady asked about the street being named Confederate and the responses from Brian and Andy. And the response was like, Brian, you said, well, you know, when you make these changes, it kind of opens up, you know, a can of worms, blah, blah, blah. It does. I think those are the tough decisions that leaders have to make. It opens up a can of worms. Your constituents will call you. They will cuss. They will fuss because they like the Confederate street. And I understand that it may be an inconvenience for people in that they have to now tell everybody that the name of the street has changed. But Confederate is a blight. It's a blight on our county. It's a blight on the city, the state, the nation. And so when you talk about these things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then you come back and you say, we can't do anything about that. We can't change the name of the street because it opens a can of worms. If they change it over here, somebody else will want to change it. But people who look like me have suffered under the Confederacy, okay? Andy, you talked about your generational wealth. You got your generational wealth because of my grandparents, okay? So, and their parents. So when we talk about a street called Confederate, and you say that we really can't change it, and it may not be something that can be changed by the county people or the city people, but you, as citizens, can change. Use your voice. I'm personally tired of people telling me that they're allies. Give me some of that power and privilege that you have, and let that work on my behalf. Then I will believe diversity, equity, and inclusion. If there's a street in this area that's called Confederate, if there's a monument, if you're standing with me, then you need to do what you can to get rid of that. Then I will believe you when you say that we're embracing diversity. Diversity, by the way, just to school folks, is more than just hiring people who look like me. Diversity is about changing the mindset and the culture. And if you don't do that, excuse my language, but you ain't done nothing. Enough said. I'm going to drop the mic on that.
I'm short. Hi. I just want to say thank you all for running. I know it's not easy. It's a lot of work. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't pay attention to local politics. I got involved in local politics related to schools because I am frustrated by the capacity issues that we have in our area. Now, I live in Concord, so I have to ask Concord questions. So I live here. Like, I live in Highland Creek. I'm right around the corner. When I moved here 11 years ago, that doesn't sound like a long time ago, but there was no gas station except at Concord Mills. And I remember driving and being like, I really wish there was a gas station for safety. Like, I wish there one was close. Well, my prayers were answered too much. So we have a lot of development. And my frustration is over at Poplar Tent and Eastfield, our neighbors, now granted, we're not old Concord. We haven't been here our whole lives. But we care about our neighborhoods. We care about our schools. We didn't want that development. That was farmland. There was a huge Facebook group. There was hundreds of people. I'm guessing we didn't go about it the right way to tell you, please don't put this here. But now I drive by that to drop off my daughter at Harris Road for her hub stop because she goes to Roberta Road. And they're still building, and there's all these people coming. And I just keep on thinking, there's no capacity at our schools. And we're not going to build them fast enough. And I know that's not your responsibility. I know who's in charge of that. But my question is what you are responsible for is approving sewer lines and allowing development to happen. And this isn't no apartments. This is just any development. So my question for you guys is, since you don't live here on this side of town, what kind of community engagement do you do before you approve these lines? Because
in my experience, I don't see any. And as a parent who's busy, who's working, and when we were trying to fight stuff before I was on the school board, we didn't know what meetings we had to go to. We didn't know who we needed to talk to. But I didn't see you guys coming to us either. And so if you have hundreds of people saying, please don't put this up, and then you approve it, it doesn't feel like anyone's listening. Oak Lawn Mills is the new one, but there's Tucker Village, all you gotta, okay, so I'm talking about Harris Road. On your way back, go the back roads, okay? And drive by Harris Road Middle School, and then drive towards Odell, and over there, you can't, there's just development everywhere. And then even here, at the end of Christenberry, we're gonna get a supermarket, and I think there's mixed use in there, and then we have apartments. As parents, there was a group of 5 of us that were gonna fight that mixed use for that Lowe's, and then we couldn't because the meeting happened around Christmas. But anyway, the point is there's development everywhere, and I wanna know, if you don't live here, how are you making sure that people are aware of what's happening before it's too late, before the bulldozers come in?
So thank you for that question. Couple things. So that the development you're talking about on, I actually drive that road every single day. My ex-husband lives over there, and my daughter, I pick her up. So very familiar with the traffic over there. That particular one, so I'm going to back up a couple of steps. When you look at, and I think this goes back to education and what we talked about from a zoning perspective, that particular one, and I don't remember the name of it, but it was right there at Poplar and Harris Road. There are things, so there's an overlay on a piece of land. So let's say, tell me your name again. Ashley. Ashley owns a piece of land at the corner of Harris Road and Poplar Tent, and it's 30 acres, and it is zoned residential medium, okay, which just basically means the type of density that can go in there. A lot of times when they come in, Ashley, the developer approaches Ashley, and the developer has to come and say, here's the plan that we would like to put in place, and that's very specific to that plan. On that one that you're talking about particularly, Ashley has, or the developer has, what's called a by right, which means we don't have to rezone it. By right, she can sell it to that developer, and he or she can build X amount of homes on that land, okay? That's what happened with that property. It was actually a by right property. They already had the right to build, and I apologize, I forget the numbers, but it was, I'm gonna say 100 houses on it. It's a lot more than that. I know that they're building over there. But what happened was the overlay that they put on that, the plan that they brought to us, it actually, if we approved that plan, it actually gave you 75 houses versus 100 houses. Does that make sense? And so that was part of the reason, and we did debate that one long and hard and definitely heard that opposition. And the reason that we ended up approving that plan was because it actually had less impact, because the developer could have built it by right anyway. It didn't require a rezone, it didn't require, and so our thought part of that was, how can we mitigate the impact of that? Because I agree with you, the road, the infrastructure out there. So that's kind of that piece of it. You might want to talk about the change that we made from a zoning perspective because I do agree with you, one of the things that we talked a lot about was the communication piece of it, because what happens is all of a sudden, if I don't have, so I've got this thought in my head that I always say, like, if Ashley's coming to me and she's got the emotion charged already in it, it doesn't matter how many facts I give her, she doesn't care, right? Like, we've passed the fact zone, and Ashley's in the, like, listen, you're not listening to me, you're not right. And so that's part of what we're trying to mitigate too, is I was like, as the female up there going, you can't throw any more facts at them, like they're just really mad, this is not gonna work, right? And so what we did was we went back and we changed some of the requirements, because technically by state law, and y'all check me on this, only if my property is touching Ashley's do I have to be notified of any sort of information from that standpoint. We made changes within the city to make sure that that was globally impacted more. You may want to talk about that.
And one other thing we did, and you can look back and see, our council over the past, since I've been on the term, very rarely have we annexed anything new into the city, because I feel like like Andy said earlier, our city has a huge footprint already, and we have very much been promoting infill development rather than sprawl. But many moons ago, councils before us has started sprawling, is that a word? Sprawling this direction. And like Jennifer said, you know, when we approve something, it doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, they're gonna build something there. And Jennifer says a lot of times in the meetings, sometimes if we say no to something, we're 100% saying yes to something else, because it's kind of like the bird in the hand thing, you know, like, well, we like this plan and this developer is going to help us build a greenway, and he's given some concessions and maybe help us with a crosswalk in a traffic light at the intersection. Whereas by right, they don't have to do any of that, and they could build a bunch of terrible houses, you know. So it's one of those things where in a lot of these cases, we're not approving these developments because we want that there. It's just they could build something anyway, you know, no matter what, because it's already zoned residential. They're taxpayers. They have a right in North Carolina to do that. One thing I'll say, though, that we did change is we expanded our notifications to people so that we could have more community input, and this is part of that transparency thing. We also, which is not required by law in the state of North Carolina, if we were to ever annex anything, and I'm proud of bringing this up, North Carolina doesn't require cities to notify adjacent property owners of an annexation. The city of Cabarrus is one of the first people that has done that. So if we're going to annex anything in our city, we notify all the adjacent property owners so that we can have dialogue, because what happens is if we annex something and we hadn't notified people, well, once we've already annexed it, it's in the city. So we're going to have to zone it something, you know, and then it's too late, because then everybody then finds out about it. Well, that's kind of the cart before the horse. So we've said, well, you know what? We want people to know that it's coming to the city first, so that we can not, because once you annex it, it's an act of Congress, or it's an act of the state legislature to get it unannexed. And we don't want to do that. So I hear you. And we do try to consider the school board and the population, especially out Poplar Tent area. I mean, the Save Poplar Tent guys, we hear you loud and clear. And I promise you, that's something that we do not take lightly, but we try to mitigate some of the, and like we said, we can't control the growth, but we can manage it in some ways by getting concessions, and it's a challenge, but I hear you loud and clear. Thank you for that.
And we'll take our last question from the audience at this time. And then after the question, each candidate, starting with Harrisburg candidate, then our Kannapolis candidate, and then our Concord Cabarrus candidates will have 30 seconds of closing.
Hi, good evening. I'm a resident of Harrisburg and have been for the last 20 years. So I have seen a lot of growth. We moved here from Dallas, Texas, and built a home. Educated our last two, who are now 27 and 33. So we've seen a lot in this community. But I do have some questions, and I'm sorry because I was working with my mom here in the back when you all were introduced, but I think Wendell and Latricia or Chris are Harrisburg, correct? Okay, so this is pertaining more to you, all right? No offense, guys, but overall, I do say, maybe I should start with the last question, which is really for all of you. But I just wanted to know, and think about this, not necessarily looking for a question, but anybody can answer it, but has either council discussed having several like open mic forums for their residents, for the community? Just like politicians in Washington, after we vote them, are supposed to come home and talk to us, but don't. Well, same thing for you guys. You want us to come out and vote for you, hear your platforms, but do you ever circle back to hear our voice? Now you may tell us, here's a calendar, because I know Harrisburg does, in our newsletter. We have all the departments, all the committees, when they meet, but they have agendas. When we go to those meetings, oftentimes there's no room to get on that agenda, right? So have you ever considered having, once a quarter even, make the time to hear your constituents, to publicize it enough so people have enough notice, and God knows social media blows up. You talk about legacy. You want to set a legacy for your son? You want young people to come back to Harrisburg? I can tell you, my two wanted to get as far away from Cabarrus County as they could because they weren't appreciated. They were not embraced. We were not from here, number one. They were highly intelligent young ladies from 2nd grade to 8th grade. We battled. We battled because people didn't understand, you know, why these people, they had never seen black children come in and speak as properly as they did. They were accelerated in their academics. It wasn't embraced because that same conception oftentimes resonates against people of color. And my mother's 84 there. I'm an only child. My mother went to school and fought for me every day, every year. I'm gonna say every day, every year from kindergarten to 12th, because I was educated in school districts that didn't appreciate necessarily what I had intellectually. So to carry on that battle and fight for my own children, natural. Because we do have something to contribute. But unless we all can come to the table and talk about what is of concern to everybody. And yes, whoever said it, because I'm sitting over here, as my sorority sister said, Confederate flag may be wonderful for those people that live on that street, for other people that can appreciate their heritage, that are proud of it. But understand there's always another side of the coin. And that's something I've always taught my children. You are entitled to your own perspective, God knows. But be big enough to try and look at the other side. Try and understand and appreciate, even if you don't agree. Because everybody is entitled to their feelings and their opinion. May not be right, but just like those Confederate flags mean something to those people on that street, it means completely the opposite to people of color. And it's something when, as she said, and I heard you, and believe me, I think everybody, I can't say everybody, but people, a lot of people in this room, when you say open a can of worms, that went through us. And I know I'm just as old as she is, so I know what she's feeling, right? Because uncomfortable conversations have to happen, especially among politicians. That's your job. You should be used to it. And we're going to hold you accountable to it. And Cabarrus County is a very red county. Didn't know that moving here from Dallas, Texas, but Texas is a very red environment. So understanding that, we had a leg up in what we were facing, which was a surprise to people in Cabarrus County. But I asked you to really think about listening, making the opportunity to listen to your constituents. You have the time. Once a quarter, it's not that big of a deal. The newsletter that comes out from Harrisburg, like I said, it gives the departments, the committees, and the times, the dates, but it never gives you the opportunity to bring your concerns, to speak. Think about how we can address that. Think about, you say you want growth in Harrisburg. Yes, we have growth. We have had a lot of growth. We have had a lot of banks. We have had a lot of fast food. We have had a lot of storage buildings, yeah. So what happened to the diversity of international type restaurants? You know, everybody doesn't eat Chinese. I eat Chinese, but everybody doesn't eat Chinese. Now, as far as I see, we have Texas barbecue or barbecue. We have Bubba's. We have, Panera's is a step up. I'm going to give it to y'all. But still, there's things that could be done. And if you want to retain young people, if you want to build a legacy for your children, if you want entrepreneurship, then give them something to stay for. That's what I'm saying.
may answer her question.
Absolutely.
Okay.
2
And
minutes.
Forgive me, I don't know if she said her name. But just to answer the part of your question, ma'am, about being able to share what your concerns are, at the beginning of the town council meetings, they do allow the opportunity to allow public opinion at that point. But that's true. That's true. But as I said earlier, one of my biggest areas is making sure that I have a connection to the community. So I'd love to be able to talk with you and get more detail of what that looks like for you, and then explore how we can incorporate that. Even if I don't win my seat, I want to be clear about that. I'm still an advocate, and I still want to see my town grow. I still want to see the diversity in my town continue to grow and prosper. So I still want to be able to have that conversation with you about how to help what you're seeing as a concern, let that be leveraged so that we can address what is clearly something that you're very passionate about.
So, Mr. Wendell, 30 seconds.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Pastor Solomon, for having us. Thank you for the D9 and the Black Political Caucus for hosting this and welcoming us. Wendell Fant for Harrisburg Town Council. I appreciate the opportunity. We only got one here from Harrisburg, so make sure you tell the individuals that the 3 that showed up from Harrisburg was here to answer those questions. And again, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate the hospitality, and have a good evening. Thanks.
Thank you all. You've already proven you're ahead of the game because you're here, you're involved, you're plugged in. You are the thought leaders, you are the advocates, you are the ones that will propel your communities forward. So thank you for being involved. Again, 30 plus years in Harrisburg by choice, and I love me some Dallas, Texas, okay? I spent some time there. And it is different. And I think we do have to serve our community top to bottom. One of the things, if I'm 65 years old, what do I care about the schools? You want the resale value on your house to be high? You want to be in a good school district? There are reasons to care about that quality of life. If I'm 25 years old, what do I care if there's a 23-second response time on an ambulance? Well, your mother may be visiting that day, and she may need that safety. So think about your community. It's not all about you. It's about you as a community, and that's what I'm here to advocate for on behalf of Harrisburg. And again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you. As the only Kannapolis person here, I'm really proud to be here listening to what we've set up here, but also some of y'all's concerns and stuff that we've brought up tonight. As someone that really does care about my city, care where it moves and how we advance and come from where we are now, I'm proud to be doing this. I'm excited to be doing this. It's a big step for any of us to actually make this pledge and this kind of jump into a political world. Thank y'all for coming out. It means a lot to us to hear what y'all have to say, to hear the questions and what's going on. I'm really excited for this. I don't know if we have anyone here in Kannapolis, but if y'all happen to know of people in Kannapolis or anything, please let's have those conversations about what's going on. Let them know there is an election in Kannapolis too, and that we have some room to grow in Kannapolis and grow in really smart and effective ways. Thank you.
I'm honored to have been asked to be here tonight, so thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm Latricia Glover, candidate for Harrisburg Town Council, and I appreciate your support. I'm on the ballot. I'm the 5th name down, and I look forward to serving you on our Harrisburg Town Council.
Check. Okay, thank you all for having me. I really appreciate this dialogue. I'm Brian King, District 2. The 2 opponents that are opposing me are not here tonight, so I'm the only one here from that. So I'll be the second one down on your ballot in District 2. So thank y'all, and if you need to ask me any questions, just reach out. But I really am dedicated to Concord. there's a lot of things that we love about Concord that we want to keep the same, and there's a lot of changes that we need to. And I want to emphasize the fact that with the challenges we have coming online, we do need experience and proven leadership, and that's why that's kind of my campaign tagline is leadership, proven leadership and experience. I'm still young enough to where I've got a lot of fire in my gut, but I have a lot of institutional knowledge by doing this position for a long time. So I hope that you all will consider that on November 7th. And please tell your friends and family in Concord to make sure they come out and vote. And that's important to get everybody out to vote. And hope y'all, Brian King, thank you.
Short benedictions are best. Thank you.
I hate to follow a preacher, but thank you guys so much. I will tell you that outside of being a mother, this is one of the hardest jobs I've ever done. It will humble you. It will remind you of who you are and who you should be. So thank you for that opportunity to serve. I don't have opposition, but I still believe that if you live in Concord and you check that little box beside my name, that you need to feel good about that check. So if anybody has any questions, we'll be here after. So thank you guys so much for hosting this.
All right, if we can put our hands together for our candidates. We really do appreciate you guys, your humbleness, your tenacity. It takes a lot of guts. It takes finances. It takes a lot, so we are appreciated. Shout out to the women of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, the woman of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the woman of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and the Black Political Caucus, along with the men of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. But most importantly, shout out to you guys for expressing and utilizing and being within and embodying your power and using your First Amendment right. That is greatly appreciated. If all hearts and minds are clear, we can stand. And we have one more thing, but we can stand while he's talking. And then that will be the end of the evening. God bless you all.